We're asked to find the seventh term of the geometric sequence -8, -32, -128, and so on. Because we have a geometric sequence, we can determine the seventh term using the formula a sub n equals a sub 1 times r raised to the power of n minus 1. Where a sub 1 is the first term, and therefore a sub 1 is -8. The common ratio r is what we multiply it by to determine the terms in the sequence. Notice -8 times 4 is -32. -32 times 4 is -128. And therefore the common ratio r is positive 4. We can also determine the common ratio r using the formula r equals a sub n divided by a sub n minus 1, which means we can determine r by selecting any term in the sequence except the first term and then dividing by the term before it. So notice how if we start with the second term, the common ratio r is equal to -32 divided by the previous term of -8, which is positive 4. We could also start with the third term, and the common ratio r is equal to -128 divided by the previous term of -32, which is also positive 4. And then finally, because we're looking for the seventh term, we know n is equal to 7, which means the seventh term, a sub 7, is equal to a sub 1, which is -8, times r raised to the power of n minus 1, where the common ratio r is 4, and then the exponent of n minus 1 would be 7 minus 1, since n is 7. So this gives us the seventh term, a sub 7, is -8 times 4 raised to the power of 6. And now we'll go to the calculator. -8 times 4 raised to the power of 6 is -32,768. For the next example, we're asked to find the fifth term of the geometric sequence, and we have 9, 22.5, 56.25, and so on. So again, because we have a geometric sequence, we know that a sub n is equal to a sub 1 times r raised to the power of n minus 1. A sub 1, the first term, is 9. For this sequence, it's much more difficult to determine the common ratio r, and therefore we will use the formula. So if we start with the second term, we can say the common ratio r is equal to 22.5 divided by 9. If we started with the third term, the common ratio r would be equal to 56.25 divided by the previous term of 22.5. Let's check both of these quotients. 22.5 divided by 9 is 2.5, and 56.25 divided by 22.5 is also 2.5. So now we know the common ratio r is 2.5. And because we're looking for the fifth term, n is 5. The fifth term, a sub 5, is equal to a sub 1, which is 9, times r raised to the power of n minus 1, where r is 2.5. So we have 2.5 raised to the power of 5 minus 1, which gives us a sub 5 is equal to 9 times 2.5 raised to the fourth power. And now I'll go back to the calculator one more time. We have 9 times 2.5 raised to the fourth power. Enter. The fifth term is 351.5625. I hope you found this helpful.